All right, I've already tried to record this once, so we're going to try to record it again. Let's go. All right, I have a Rheingeist here because this is the drink that I fell in love with at Frontier Festival. I think that's what it was called. But I am today ranking all of the rides at Cedar Point based on which rides get the longest lines at the beginning of the day. So basically, which ones should you hit when? You'll hear when I'm in the park, I'll frequently say, basically right now would be a great time for you to hit those tier 2 attractions or those tier 5 attractions or whatever, those tier 3 attractions. And quite honestly, I didn't have a specific definition for them, but this now gives me a specific definition, and it gives you a specific definition of which rides are which. So come along with me. Also, I want to see you guys, your responses to this. First of all, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys based on which rides you hit first in the morning. Basically, like what would be your top 2 in the morning when you first get to Cedar Point? What's kind of your ritual when you come into the park? So leave that down in the comments if you want. Also, don't forget to like. But you can also get on this tier maker list, and you can leave me a tier of which rides are in what tier. Now, the tiers that I'm going to use are movers, shakers, doers, waiters, and fillers. So the movers are going to be the rides that people run to. They get there as fast as they can. Same thing with the shakers, but it's a little bit of a different situation. We'll make that distinction in just a little bit here. The doers are rides that you just have to hit. They're iconic, but they don't necessarily have the longest lines, so you don't have to run to them, but you need to hit them early on in the day or maybe wait. The waiters are rides that may get fairly big during the afternoon. You know, there may be a couple of hours in the middle of the day when they're going to have big lines. But if you wait until the end of the day, they're going to have extremely short lines. And fillers. Fillers are lines that truly never get long. So throughout the day, just pepper your day with these filler attractions. The filler attractions are the best ones to make sure that you have the best coaster average during the day while you're there at Cedar Point. So let's hop into this. I hope you're excited and I hope you're ready. Let's go. A special thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you would like your name in the credits also, please find the link in the description below. Gemini is our very first attraction. Let's get into it. Gemini is on the right side of Cedar Point. So when you go down the midway, as you get to coasters is kind of the midpoint where you have the choice to go to the right or you have the choice to go to the left. If you go to the left, you're going to hit some of the bigger attractions, and if you go to the right, you're going to hit kind of some of the bigger attractions from the 80s or the 70s. So most people coming into the park at the very beginning of the morning do not go to the right at Cedar Point. Throughout the day, Gemini stays fairly low. There are both 2 cars running simultaneously, and then there's another 2 cars running right after that. So the line never really gets huge. The only caveat to that is if they take 2 of the cars off. You know, I'm actually going to end up giving that one a filler attraction because it's one that you can do pretty much throughout the day. You can pepper your time in and you're never going to have to wait more than about 15 minutes. I do think it's teetering on the edge of being a waiter attraction where I would just wait until the evening. So that's maybe good to know because that may be the best idea, to just wait until the evening to do it or to hit it early in the morning. But it is one that you could hit pretty much no matter what time, and you're still only going to have to wait about a half hour for it at the very most. Our next attraction is Maverick. And Maverick, of course, is a huge attraction. Everyone loves Maverick, and that is one of those that people run to. As a matter of fact, in my experience, I have often seen Maverick have a longer line than even one of the other big name attractions right next to it. So Maverick is a mover on this tier list. You need to definitely run to Maverick if you're going to hit it early on in the morning. or there are also some other strategies. We'll get into those strategies later, not in this video, but in another video, some different strategies for what you can do throughout the parks. This is the way we're going to spend our winter. Just ruminating about what the best strategies are and the best tier lists are of Cedar Point. And also we'll be going to some other winter things, I think this next week at Kings Island, actually. The next ride is Woodstock Express, and this one's going to be a little bit contentious or confusing. So, okay, if you're an adult, Woodstock Express, first of all, I would just put it in filler. It's something you can do. You can do Woodstock Express as an adult, I believe. Yeah, you can do Woodstock Express as an adult. I don't recommend it. I mean, the seatbelts are extremely tight. It's gonna hurt. It's not necessarily the best one for you to do. Lines for them are very long for any of the kids' attractions, especially the kids' coasters. It is a very slow loading process. So, where I'm really gonna put this is in doers. If you're gonna do it, you're going to do it because you have kids. So it's one that you're going to prioritize. You're going to make that one that you have to do during the day. So while it's not an adult doer, it is one that if you have kids, you're going to have to get to it. It is going to have a long line. However, it's probably not going to have a huge line until a little bit into the day, because most people with kids don't show up at the park until, you know, about 11 o'clock or something like that. They generally let their kids sleep in. Those lucky kids, because my daughter doesn't get to do that. So, Blue Streak is our next ride, and Blue Streak is, I am going to put it in fillers. Again, Blue Streak is only going to have, at the very most, like a half-hour wait, and that's at the peak time. At the very beginning of the day, it's going to have almost nothing in it. And throughout the day, you can kind of pepper your time. If Blue Streak has a half hour, or God forbid, like a 45-minute wait, then everything else is going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours at the very least. So knowing that Blue Streak has a half-hour line, that's going to say a lot about the rest of the park. Just pepper your time in with Blue Streak. If it's too long, I don't recommend ever getting on Blue Streak unless it is a 15-minute wait or less. Now, Magnum is our next ride. And Magnum, this thing is contentious for me. Because I want to put it in doer. Because it's a great ride. Everybody loves Magnum. And it's one that is very, very iconic. I mean, there's only 3 rides that broke records, outright records at Cedar Point. Now, that's a little bit of a contentious statement too, because Gemini, technically Cedar Point says Gemini was a record-breaking coaster. It was the world's or USA's highest coaster at the time of its building. But technically there's another ride that was taller than it. And I don't know. It's it's a little bit confusing. So, but they did market it as the tallest ride when they released it at the time. But Magnum was uncontentiously absolutely the tallest ride, and it did create another designation for rides. So it's one of the 3 that was unambiguously the tallest ride at its creation. So I want to say, because it's iconic, it's one you have to do. It's a doer, and I would say it definitely is one you have to do. But we're going to put it in waiters because it is down that right side aisle. The lines stay really low in that area, and that ride generally has a very low wait, except for like between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, something like that. All of a sudden, that line will shoot up just after lunch. Maybe people go grab food at Backbeat Queue, and then they're like, hey, let's go hit the other iconic coaster here. If you wait to ride Magnum in the evening, you don't need to wait for that 30-minute or 45-minute line. Instead, you can just hop onto Magnum, and Magnum will have a no wait in the evenings, because people are spending their time in the evening trying to wait for other bigger rides, not for Magnum. Iron Dragon. Iron Dragon is a ride that I absolutely love just because it's fun and it's smooth and it's easy and it doesn't beat you up and you're not scared on it. It's just an easy one, but it's definitely filler. It is one that is along the left side. Often it ends up being one of the first ones that I hit because it's right there by the train. So if I get stopped by the train and I see no wait for Iron Dragon, I just go, I'm not going to wait for the train and stand here for 3 minutes while the train goes by, when I could literally just go through the queue in that amount of time, hop on the ride, and 2 minutes after the train has gone by, I'll be walking through the train gates. That's what I would prefer to do every time. So I take Iron Dragon, and often I end up being on it very first. But with Iron Dragon on this list, I am going to put it on to fillers. It is one that you can easily skip. You can spend your time more productively doing other things, and you can pepper it in whenever you see a short line. Our next ride is Ruguru, and Ruguru is right there by Iron Dragon. It is another option if you get stopped by that train and there is no wait for Ruguru. That's actually a better option, just to go run into Ruguru. The problem with Ruguru is that you can't really see into the line. So sometimes, like at the very beginning of the day, the wait time actually says on it like 45 minutes or 50 minutes or an hour or something like that, like in anticipation of massive crowds or something. And you walk in there and literally there's nothing there. Or sometimes the wait literally says 15 minutes and you have like a 50-minute line. So it just kind of depends. There were some really funky things that happened with Ruguru this year, so watch out for that, first of all. But Ruguru I put into waiters. Ruguru is a great ride to ride at the very end of the night. And not even at the very end of the night, in the last 2 hours of the night. It does get some big lines, you know, between that time of like 3 and 5, 2 and 4, something like that. It does start to get really big lines. But then those lines die down as people try to hit the big rides, the ones that they really wanted to ride. So they go stand in line for Steel Vengeance for 2 hours because they've ridden everything else. Our next coaster is Cedar Creek Mine Ride. And once again, it's right to fillers for this one. Cedar Creek Mine Ride is a ride that's fun, but it's very overshadowed. It's very old. I think it was made in like 1964. It's got some age on it, and you feel it when you ride it too. However, the line is generally never that big. Even if it says 45 minutes, you're still really probably going to wait about, I don't know, 15 minutes, maybe a half hour for it, maybe. If the queue that you can see from the pathway is even partially full, you're gonna wait a while. But a while for that ride, I mean, I feel like anything over 15 minutes is very long for it. So you're probably going to wait 25 minutes. Maybe even if the whole thing is completely full, you might wait 30 minutes. But you're not going to wait that long for it unless there's only one train. And again, you've got to watch out for that. That'll get you every time. It's easy to go hit it throughout the day. Just if you walk by and you see a 15-minute wait, hit it. Be done with it. Let's move on. Now, we've got Wilderness Run. Once again, that's going to go into doers, and it's not because I think it's amazing. It's just because it's a kid's ride. If you are there for kids, you need to hit it. The kids are going to want to ride it, and you can ride it with your kid. Our next ride is Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper is such a fantastic ride. We all love Gatekeeper. It's iconic. You walk in, you see it. It's wonderful. It's a great ride. So I've put it into doer. Gatekeeper is one of those that if you didn't hit it, it's a shame. You gotta ride it. That's why it was such a terrible thing when it was broken for like, I don't know, a month and a half this last year, and everyone was just like, when's Gatekeeper opening? When's Gatekeeper? Have you heard anything? Is Gatekeeper opening? That was because that ride is so iconic. It is smooth, But one thing I notice about it is it's a little bit out of the way. You have a couple other rides when you come straight into the park that are much more noticeable as far as their stations go. You can see where they end up at. You can't see that with Gatekeeper. So I think a lot of people are a bit confused about where to get on Gatekeeper so they don't rush to it when they walk in. So that gives it a little bit more leeway. You can probably wait a couple of hours to get onto Gatekeeper, where you may not be able to wait a couple of hours to get onto a couple of the other rides like Maverick. That if you wait a couple hours to get on Maverick, you're going to have a massive line. You got to get there right away if you're going to ride it at the beginning of the day. Our next ride is Corkscrew, and I think it's unanimous. We all hate this ride. It hurts. That's why. It's a great ride. It is iconic, and it's so cool that you can walk right through it. This last year, I saw a couple of times when it had an hour and a quarter wait, when the entire back area was entirely full. So there are times when maybe you need to watch out for that. It can get very, very busy. But generally, throughout the days, you're not going to have that big of a line. It's rare that I would see an hour and 15 minutes. And honestly, even an hour and 15 minutes, I feel like that's pushing it. I can't imagine that many people can actually fit into the line for Corkscrew. Our next ride is Millennium Force, and I think Millennium Force is my favorite ride out of all of them at Cedar Point. That may have to do with my age. That may have to do that I was 13 when Millennium Force was made, and it's just that impressionable time, and I love it. But Millennium Force I put into actually doers. It's one you have to do. Oh, and I'm going to put it up in front of the kids' rides, because even though the tiers really don't have like they're not more important to hit at the front than they are at the back. They're just tiers, and they're good guidelines to give you ideas of when to ride each of the rides. But Millennium Force is decidedly much more important to hit than riding Woodstock Express or Wilderness Run. So just that's a different situation for both of those. But for Millennium Force is one of those rides that people bypass. So as they're running back to go hit the iconic huge rides that are the most popular in Frontier Town right now, like Maverick, they are bypassing Millennium Force. So in the morning, you don't get a huge line, much like Gatekeeper. You don't get a huge line until an hour, maybe 2 hours after those initial people have run back to those rides. As they start to make their way back forward, then they're going to start hitting Millennium Force, and they're going to get that really strong. They're going to hit that really hard. Now, Raptor, this is where maybe it's contentious, because I have a feeling a lot of people would like to see like Millennium Force in this category, but Raptor is in shakers. And that's because people are stupid. It's because when you walk into the park, so many people, they walk into the park and they're new to Cedar Point, and they just go, hey, look at that big green thing. I'm going to get on that first. And they don't have any strategy. So just everyone gets in the line at that point, where if you wait until the evening for Raptor, you're going to have a very short line. But you start out in the morning and it's just huge. I never recommend going to Raptor at the very beginning of the day, because you have all of the newbies to Cedar Point just pouring into the queue. I have included it in shakers because it is one that gets the fastest, earliest lines. And you don't want to ride it because you're going to be wasting a lot of your time that could be spent standing in line for one that's you're going to have to wait for a long line anyway. You can hit it later on in the day and you'll be fine. You'll have, instead of an hour and a half wait in the morning, you're going to have more like a 20-minute wait. But even when you first come into the park, even for like early entry, like it's not uncommon to see huge lines just waiting outside, waiting with bated breath for it to open, so that they can get into it, even though they could easily go walk back and wait for some other rides, even if they don't have a park pass, for, platinum or a gold pass, for them to be able to get into the line early. So that's definitely one that I don't think it's a good thing that it has a short line. Like I said, I think people are stupid when they do that, but it is one that just factually often it has a very long line. Now, this last year though, there were a couple times that surprised me where I walked in and there was no line at all for Raptor. So I mean, things change every day, and I'm sure that trends will change a little bit again next year. None of this is absolutely for certain, but these are the trends I saw very strongly this last year. Now, our next ride is Steel Vengeance, and Steel Vengeance, I'm going to move straight up to movers. It is one that people rush right back to it. I understand why they rush right back to it. Often that is not the strategy that I use, but it is very worthwhile if you want to go hit that ride, because that thing's going to have long lines all day long. Our next line is Top Thrill Dragster, and I did put this one into shakers also, with some contention because I kind of want to put it into doers. It's a great ride. It's one you have to hit. It didn't have massive lines, but I did notice that, yeah, you know what? I'm going to put it into doers. It's just it fits the description. It's much more fitting of the description. People don't generally run right to Top Thrill Dragster. Now, here's the issue that's going to put a hitch in our get along on this. If Top Thrill Dragster opens next year, it is going to be a shaker. You count it. I mean, there's no way. If it opens at any point next year, the minute it opens, people are going to wait for 2-hour lines to get on the Top Thrill Dragster. I guarantee it. So if next year it is open, you're going to have to wait in that, because people are excited about Top Thrill Dragster opening again. Now, I'm not guaranteeing it's even going to open. I don't know what's going to happen. I know the investigation is still going on, and I think that is what needs to happen. So I'm not going to say it's opening. I'm not going to say it's going to be open. I'm not even going to say it's ever going to open again. I have no idea what's going to happen here. And there is so much difficulty concerning the family of the girl who was affected by, if for those of you not in the know, a piece of shrapnel came off of Top Thrill Dragster and hit a girl in the head, and she's basically, she'll need some help for the rest of her life based on that. It's a terrible situation. I ask you to keep her and her family in your prayers. But I am glad that she's okay. She's gonna have to deal with this for the rest of her life. It's a very sad situation. But like I said, I mean, people are still going to love the ride. They're still going to want to get on the ride, and it's going to be a busy ride if it opens. So it will be a shaker next year if it opens. It might even be a mover. Like it's gonna be huge. Like that thing's gonna get massive lines if and when it reopens. But I am gonna put, based on what I saw last year, I'm gonna put it into doers, because it is a ride that you have to do. But this last year, I generally saw a half-hour wait at most for it. Sometimes 45 minutes. I never waited in anything. There were several times when it said 45 minutes, and it was like literally a 10-minute wait or even less than that for me. Our very last ride of the day is Val Raven, and it's in the same situation as Raptor. It is a shaker. It's one of those where you get onto Raptor, you see all around while you're on Raptor, and you go, hey, look at that red thing. They feed off of each other. Raptor and Val Raven feed off of each other. So then you kind of go, okay, or you see the big line for Raptor and you go, wait, oh, we don't want to do that. Hey, what about that red thing? Maybe we can go hit that. And so then you go see if that has a long line too. So they both get really long waits in the mornings. Again, Not sure that they should. Now, actually, if I had to say one over the other, I would say Val Raven generally has the longer lines. Often I've seen Val Raven have longer lines than even Maverick at times. I mean, hedge your bets carefully when it comes to Val Raven. So kind of the difference between the movers and the shakers is the movers have long lines in the mornings and they stay long for the rest of the day. Shakers have long lines at the beginning of the day because they are generally populated by new people to Cedar Point. So they're coming in, they're excited to watch it, or people who come, you know, a couple times a year, but they haven't really worked out like a real strategy for every minute that they're in the park. So because of that, our shaker class gets huge lines for the first 2 hours of the day, and then the lines come back down to earth where they're kind of normal lines after that. You're still going to look at 40-minute waits, but you're not going to look at hour-and-a-half waits for those rides at that point in the day. That's my list. Like I said, what's yours? I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? What are kind of your best strategies? And what would you ride specifically for the first 2 rides of your day given perfect situations? I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. Also, this tier list will be down in the comments too. I'd love for you to click on that and check it out. Show me your tier, and you can also take a picture of it, take a screenshot of it, and send it to me on Twitter at NotYourNormalG1. I'd love to see them if you want to do that. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I'm sorry I've been MIA for a while here. There's just been so much with school that's been going on, but I have a ton of new videos coming out, including some stuff for Kings Island that I think is coming up this next week. So super pumped about that. But you guys have a great day. I will see you later. Let's go.